Hello, and welcome to another midweek musical moment where we will be taking a little bit of a closer look at some of the music that will be featured in an upcoming church service during the season of Lent. My name is Matt. I am the organist here at Haddonfield United Methodist Church, and for today we will be looking at Carll F. Mueller's Choral Anthem, Create in Me a Clean Heart, O God. Carll Mueller is probably already familiar to some of you as a choral composer. He was pretty prolific and published about 500 pieces in his own lifetime. And an interesting fact about him is that he spent the majority of his working life right here in New Jersey, actually. He showed a certain aptitude for music and for the organ and started taking lessons at a young age and counted among his teachers Clarence Dickinson and several others. He moved to New Jersey in 1927, and shortly after his arrival in the Garden State, he became a pupil and student of John Finley Williamson, who was founding Westminster Choir College in the Princeton, New Jersey location in the 1920s. While he was a pupil of John Finley Williamson, he became more well-versed in the art of composition and specifically choral music and writing sacred choral music for church services, which was really from the beginning, the heart of the curriculum of Westminster Choir College in Princeton. When he moved to New Jersey in 1927, he became the organist at Central Presbyterian Church in Montclair, New Jersey, a position he held from 1927 to 1953, and then in 1953 became the organist and choir director at the First Presbyterian Church in Red Bank, New Jersey, where he remained through 1962. He became a fellow of Westminster Choir College in 1937, and during all that time he had been taking summer school courses at the choir college and learning from John Finley Williamson. And this particular anthem was composed and published in 1941, just to provide a bit of context for this music. Another interesting fact about Carll Mueller is that because of his ties to Westminster Choir College, his own personal copies of much of his music, about 500 titles in total, are part of the special archives at Westminster Choir College and form an interesting source of research material and archival resources for those interested in the development and evolution of Carll Mueller's compositional style. Now, Carll Mueller took the words and verses for this particular anthem pretty much directly from Psalm 51, verses 10 through 13. And Psalm 51 is one of the Psalms of David and was written, penned, spoken by King David shortly after his affair with Bathsheba and orchestrating the death of Bathsheba's husband, Uriah, by having Uriah stationed on the front line of a battle and thereby guaranteeing his death so that he could make Bathsheba his wife. And this greatly displeased God, and God sent the prophet Nathan to confront and condemn David. And in response, and out of contrition and guilt, he penned Psalm 51. Though it's not included in this particular anthem, because this is just verses 10 through 13, verse 7 uses an interesting visual analogy of asking God to cleanse David with hyssop branches, which harkens back to when the Israelites were held in captivity and in slavery in Egypt. And during the first Passover, they used the branches of hyssop to mark their door frames with the blood of the lamb so that the Spirit of God would pass over their house and spare them the plague of death upon the firstborn that was going to visit Egypt. The anthem opens with verse 10, "Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. in E minor, which is, for those of you who might not be musicians, the minor keys are generally taken to sound more sad, and it fits with the theme of contrition and a plea for forgiveness that this particular anthem is driving home. And verse 10 is a call and response between the men and the women. So the women start, "Create in me a clean heart, O God." And then the men respond in kind. And then the women pick up with, "And renew a right spirit within me." And the men respond with their own repetition. And that really drives home the point of this plea for forgiveness and for being purified by God. Now, about midway through the anthem, we have a somewhat sudden shift into a major tonality and a more joyful tone and timbre for all four voices in the choir. "Restore unto me the joy of thy salvation," which is verse 12 of Psalm 51. We suddenly shift from E minor to E major. "Restore unto me the joy of thy salvation." Basically, the psalmist David is asking here and pleading for forgiveness in order to be reunited in a close relationship with God, and all of the joy and the gladness and happiness that entails that as well. But that can't happen until forgiveness and confession of wrongdoing has been absolved first. So that E major tonality really breaks through and illustrates the joy that David is looking forward to upon being cleansed and having his sins forgiven. And then there's another interesting shift in tonality. We move towards the end of the anthem from E major to G major. So we're still staying within a major tonality and a more upbeat, happier sounding tone. But what's interesting is to hear how the harmony progresses to that point. So we have this building of tension that suddenly halts at the second to last page with a complete stop of the music in all four voices, and then they come back in on G major. And you can hear how that tonality and how the tension in the tonality builds to a moment of anticipation. And then there's a break, and then we come back in with and I think that shift from E major to G major is indicative of specifically verse 13 of Psalm 51, and that is, "Then will I teach transgressors thy ways," which is evocative of how the person who asks for forgiveness from God, upon being restored to a full relationship after absolution has been meted out, then that person in joy and gladness goes and shares that messages with others and tells of the joy that they have received from the forgiveness and goodness of God. But then we end with a callback to the opening verse, verse 10 of Psalm 51, back in E minor mode, and we end with a final "Create in me a clean heart, O God," which refocuses the singer and the listener on the opening plea for forgiveness and contrition and the need to be reconciled to God that starts the entire anthem. Since its publication in 1941, this anthem has sold hundreds of thousands of copies and remains a pretty popular staple in the Lenten repertory across a wide range of denominations. So because of that tradition and because of the message of the need for forgiveness and humility that is infused throughout the Lenten season, I wanted to program this particular anthem for this Sunday in recognition of that message and where we are within the liturgical calendar. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this little talk and had some insight and learned something along the way. Please do stay tuned for the recording that will be starting up in a few seconds, and look forward to hearing this particular anthem for this Sunday. See you next week, and take care.
Creed.